Alright, let's go in now and see if we can do a little bit more work to our shoes to maybe zombify them a little bit. And I don't want to adjust the shoes that's there, so I'm going to duplicate the subtool and turn everything else off. And I'm going to work with this duplicate. Okay, and then I'm going to come down and let's turn Dynamesh on. Okay, because in order to do what we're going to do next, we got to use this new feature. And let me tell you what I am going to do. So I'm going to actually say no, and I'm going to undo that. What we are going to do is carve out the center part here so that we can then carve out and have some toes exposed down in the side. So we're going to basically create an actual shoe with an interior and an exterior. And in ZBrush speak, that means we're going to create a shell. And you might notice that Dynamesh has a button that says Create Dynamesh Shell. So I'm going to click Dynamesh, and why don't I freeze these subdivision levels? Because I want to keep some subdivision levels, keep some detail. But we're going to go through this process. We might run into a few problems. We're going to backtrack. We've got a lot of options because we've saved it and we've got another iteration of shoes. But I just want to walk you through the thinking process. So yes, freeze subdivision levels. Make sure Dynamesh is on. Okay, and then if you turn polyframe on, you can see the difference, and you'll also see that everything is soft. That's really important because we're going to need to find a way to get that back, actually. So I'm going to select the Insert Cylinder brush, press Alt, and insert a cylinder. Make sure it doesn't go all the way down, and make sure that it's shaped to this interior. There you go. Alright. I'll be happy with that. Control, click and drag. And if the next thing I do is Control, click and drag, then it just cuts this out. Okay, that's fine, but that's not what I really want. What I want is for it to create a shell. Like that. So now it's created that shell. And if I look inside this, let's just trim off the front part. We should have an interior and an exterior. You'll really see it if you go into display properties, you turn double on. This is when you'll see interior, exterior. Okay, and now I'm going to just clean this up a little bit. Make sure symmetry is on. Let's turn polyframe off. I don't need that. And let's pull that in. Trim dynamic to make sure with trim dynamic, in this case, we're going to turn back face masking on. It's not behaving well with back face masking on. So instead, we're just going to be a little careful. Use the move brush, push things around, and then go from there. I'm also going to get rid of this chunk in the back so I can see. That's what I'm looking for. Let's get rid of that alpha. Okay, Control Shift click. Control click to remesh, recalibrate, refigure all that stuff out. And now let's cut out a little part for the toes. So I'm going to use that insert cylinder again, and this time I'm going to press Alt, but no symmetry. And also, let's adjust this. Okay, I want the sole to be exposed, but then there to be a big flap missing. Okay, and straight across. Okay, Control, click and drag, Control, click and drag. And we've just hollowed out one of the feet. We may want to do something along the lines over here, so insert cylinder. And then I'm just going to push and pull this around. Try snake hook. Try snake hook with a crazy alpha. See if anything interesting happens. Okay, I'm going to use transpose, move that back in with snake hook in draw mode. Control, click and drag, Control, click and drag, and it looks like I forgot to press Alt. So all that work for nothing. And back into insert cylinder, Alt, okay, snake hook, let's see, I want to see the little toe. Control, click and drag, Control, click and drag. There we go. Alright, now all the rest of the stuff still works, so we've still got our laces, right? We've still got the body, so let's just show everything and then turn the Z-sphere laces off and shoes off. We've got some issues in terms of the way our model's lining up and the size of the feet and the size of the shoes and all of that stuff. And really, I mean, we do need to actually sculpt the heel in there, and then we'll move the foot in to adjust, so that's not a big problem. And I'll get busy on that here right now. I just need a sense of the scale. And anything else I can think of? No, nothing else. So let's go and turn these back off. I'm going to use clay brush, but I am going to go into the brush palette and turn backface masking on. And basically I'm brushing in the interior. Hopefully it's going to work with both sides without creating too many problems. Okay, trim dynamic. Okay, and then let's do trim dynamic on this side, but I'm going to turn symmetry off. And again, backface masking on. Oops, ran into a problem. We won't tell anybody though. Okay, let's turn the body on and see if that's going to fit. And I'm going to actually move to the body, leave shoes 2 on, lower our subdiv, and let's turn transparency on. So I'm going to select the ankle, and I want to adjust a few things. So one thing I can do is just make this deeper so it actually fits better. But the other thing I can do is come in with the move brush now and just give these feet the arc. Oops. Let's make sure symmetry's on and do that mask again. Yeah. Move brush. The mask is affecting things oddly. So I'm back to square one. Masking, control click to invert, control click on the model to blur it, drag that out. Move it down. Just making the foot larger within there. Into draw mode, into move. Let's look at it from below with perspective off. And I'm going to reseat the feet. Just say they're larger. Bending down, lifting up. Transparency off. Okay, into the shoe, and well, I don't want to adjust the shoe. There's an important reason why I'm not adjusting the shoe yet. Okay. Alright, I like that. That works. We can be going in time, really adjusting those toes and getting them looking quite gnarly looking. But let's go into the shoe and identify problem number one. Problem number one is that we've lost all the detailing. We do have all of the detailing in this shoe, and hopefully they still line up in most parts, which they do. So what I'm going to do is select shoe number 2, the shoe behind door number 2. I'm going to turn shoe 1 off, okay, and I'm going to be clear about one thing. Okay, this has the sculpt. The shoe 2 has the shape, okay, or we should say sculpt and is actually details, and we've redone the shape. So we need to transfer shoe 1 into shoe 2. How are you going to do that? Well, let's turn Dynamesh off for shoe 2. So step number 1, and in fact let's hide shoe 1 so you see what's happening. We're going to turn Dynamesh off, or you could just say turn freeze subdivision levels off, and that should take care of the rest. And there we go. It actually took a while, so I paused the video, but we've got a lot of the form left, and there's a couple of indicators for you. One, ZBrush has masked off areas that it thinks are pretty much set in stone and are in fine shape. Let's turn solo mode on. And then the areas that are new and untouched are the areas that are unmasked. So I'm just going to control click and drag to clear the mask. Dynamesh is no longer on, so clicking basically turning off freeze subdivision levels took us out of Dynamesh. And let's compare that. So there is our original. That's shoe number 1. And then this is actually, yeah, we have solo mode on. And this is shoe number 2. Pretty dead on. You know, and there's some unrealistic elements here. You know, this would, the tongue would probably disappear since its root is actually down here. But this will absolutely set you up with some really interesting kind of situations. Let's turn everything else on. And let's turn shoe 1 off, and then turn the Z-sphere laces off. And let's zoom out. I'm going to look at the body as the primary one. and perspective is on, floor is on, and we have some sculpting to do on those toes that I think I want to do. That'll be the last thing I sculpt on him. But otherwise, we are largely done with the sculpting part. I'm going to come up here and press Best Preview Render just to get a nice render of that. I haven't adjusted anything. I'm just using default settings. Okay, and why don't we do that with that that material that we modified earlier. There we go. Nice render of all of that. Let's do something where we can see the face a little better. There you go. Now, if you want to know how to extend that shadow out, the option is in Draw, and we have to increase the grid size. And it's a pretty clear indicator. You can see the grid ends. So the shadow will only go up to the edge of that, and then it terminates. So you just go into Draw, you set grid size, let's just increase it. You can see it drags out. And then if you do a Best Preview Render again, these are all just default settings. The shadow will extend out and look pretty cool. So we're basically done with sculpting. I'm going to do a quick little bit on the toes there, but we've created all the parts. We've got a shirt, we've got pants, we've got shoes, okay, we've got the body, the head, and hair. These are all the different subtools that we've accumulated. Eyes, I think, are actually in and sculpted as part of the head, so they're not separate. And we all have a belt as well. So that's good. And a buckle. And along the way, we've been using things like Dynamesh. We've been using mesh extraction. Okay, we've dealt with polygroups, subtools. Okay, we've dealt with things like mask by polygroup to show you how you can use polygroups and get some control. The brushes that we've used, pretty simple. Clay, Trim Dynamic, H Polish. Okay, those are all pretty basic. Standard, Damn Standard. So we've really looked at the whole core of this sculpting pipeline within ZBrush. There's a lot more that we can cover, a lot of different ways that we can cover things, but we've looked at it and approached everything and completed an entire character along the process. We've kind of dabbled in everything, I should say.